Okay, so there's a couple of things happening, some of which I didn't realize. So this is kind of our first Mass together as a school. Last week, I guess you went to Assumption, but that didn't count in one way because everybody in the parish was also going to the Assumption Mass. So this is our opening Mass in one way. Father Chris and I are dressed in white, though, when we could be dressed in another color, because we are also remembering a man, Saint Bernard, who was a dog. No, the dog is named Saint Bernard sometimes. This is the man for whom the dog is named sometimes. He lived a couple of years earlier than Saint Francis did in the Middle Ages, and he was known as a person who could lead people to Christ. He wanted to do that. That was his job, trying to help people recognize how special they were and how important they were, and how Christ wanted them as a part of Christ's own life. So it's a good man to remember, perhaps, as we begin a school year, because that should also be our responsibility as members of the Franciscan school, is to lead people to Christ, to tell people who Christ is, why it's important maybe to believe in him, and what believing in him can do for our lives. But before we get to that, so we want to just do another kind of formal welcome to the class of 2035? 2034? 35? I think it's 35. You're the class of 2035. 2035, let's say that. Okay, it's 10 years because you'll be graduating in June or May of the year after you begin. So, you are just beginning. How many of you went to preschool here? Okay, good number. Okay, good. So you kind of have a familiarity with sort of the ways that things work around here and everything else like that. Put your hands down, put your hands down, put your hands down, hands down, hands down, hands down, hands down. Good, okay. So you have a familiarity with what's going on. But what I want you to do is to stand up, and I want you to turn all the way around and look at these people over here. Because who is this group over here? Do you know who this group is? What grade are they? They're the 8th graders. They are the 8th graders. Soon, you will all be integrated together. They're all going to come and they're all going to be your buddies as we move forward into the year. But look at them, because they are where you are right now 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Some of them are new here, but all of them had to begin with kindergarten. All of them had to begin where you are. And look at them now. Stand up, 8th grade. Oh my gosh, look at how big they are. They're like giants. Oh my gosh, and there's some of them over there too. Oh my gosh, look at them, they're everywhere. They're like slice. No, okay, sit down. Okay, so turn back around. Okay, so this is what we do here. So turn back around, kindergarten, sit down. Okay, so this is what we do here at the Franciscan school. Again, we begin and we end, and we put them both together. Because what you are going to start doing is, again, what St. Bernard wanted us to do, is to try to help people recognize how important it is to believe in a God that cares about us, a God that loves us, and how much this God wants us to be a part of this God's life. These 8th graders, whether they began at kindergarten, whether they began in preschool, where some of you began, or whether they are just new for a couple of years or even this year together, are going to be people, again, who recognize how important it is to let other people know how important believing in God is. And they're going to be leaving us at the end of this year to go out into the world, unafraid, because they know that God is with them, because they know that Jesus is with them. And if God and Jesus are with you, then really anything is possible. Anything can happen. Anything can work. So that's what's going to begin for all of you, this great class of 2035. Look at this class of 2026 right behind us. Again, to work together like this and to be a part of all this great work that we're doing together. But what does all of this mean, again, for the rest of us, again, today, who are still in the process of moving forward? Again, so now all of you have switched your places from last year. Those of you who were here last year were in a whole different kind of a place, seated over here, and now we're all moving around again. And why? Because life moves. If we don't move forward, we die. We have to keep moving forward. And so we do that here in this place by switching our seating positions every year. Each class moves to a different spot. But in doing that, we move to a different spot because we have learned something about what it means, not just to be a member of the Franciscan school, but to be a person who dares to believe, again, that God cares, that God is important to us, that having God in our lives makes things better. Because if God isn't there, then basically we're just on our own. And if we're on our own, it can be scary, it can be frightening, It can be, confusing. It can fill us with a bunch of anxiety and pain and whatever it is. We tell people that God isn't a fantasy. God isn't make-believe. God isn't this pretend that we do. But God is real. And God wants us to be a part of this life that God gives us so that basically we can help other people recognize the fact that they aren't alone, that they don't have to be afraid, that they can do amazing things. And that's what we try to do here, always at the Franciscan School, is amazing things. Because once again, look at how many of us there are. Look how many of us there are. Almost 700 of us are a part, and that's just students, not including faculty and staff and all of the administrators. Again, more than 700 of us who come together, and our job is not to make everybody feel lost and abandoned, not to make people feel as though they don't matter or they don't count, but to make sure that everybody recognizes the fact that they are worth something, that they have value, that they have importance. That is our job, never letting anybody feel like they don't matter, never letting anybody feel as they're worthless, never letting anybody feel as we can do better if you weren't around. Because that's not true. It's never true. It's never true. We need each other. We need each other always. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it's challenging. Sometimes there are hills to climb. Sometimes there's valleys we fall in the middle of. But being together makes things better. It does. And nobody should be a nameless face within the Franciscan School. Nobody should be somebody who doesn't think that they are important or that they don't matter. No one should ever feel that way at the Franciscan School especially. Because that would mean that then we are hypocrites, we are liars. We're not telling the truth about what it is that we mean and what we stand for. We come together to begin another school year with this great job in front of us that's going to help people recognize how much they matter, how much they're worth, how much they can do. That's a great project to begin. That's a great responsibility to take on. And we do that happily. We do that with energy. We do that with courage. Because again, that makes us stand out as one of the most unique schools in the world, because that is what we are, the most unique school in the world. A school that has two people as its patron, St. Francis and St. Clare. Two people who dared to dream things that were not just pretend or fantasy, but dared to dream things and then put them into practice, bringing people together, showing people how much they were loved and cared for, telling people that it is worthwhile to get involved with each other's lives and to show each other how much it is good to build friendships and relationships and care with each other. Because that's our job. That's always our job as the Franciscan School, as people who hold to the understanding of what Francis and Clare started. Now, there are many things, again, that we can struggle with, and many things, that go on. And today's gospel reading kind of talks about that. So in today's gospel reading, what happened? How does it begin? How does today's gospel reading begin? Anybody remember? Today's gospel reading. Today's gospel reading. Yes, Vivi? Yep. And somebody comes to them and says, yeah, exactly. Come to work in my field. Come to work in my field. So he gives two people, gives a couple people a job. Now, does it stop there? Does it stop there? So in the early morning, people are looking for work, and a man comes and hires them. And what happens after that? Are they the only people who are hired? Master Lobach? No. Who else is hired? Okay, a lot of other people. And are they hired at different times of the day, Wills? Everybody's hired at different times of the day. And what happens is at the end of the day, so there's a lot of people working in this field, and at the end of the day, it comes time to pay all of these workers who have been working in the field of this guy who was very generous in hiring these men who were basically just standing around if they had nothing else to do. Here, do you want to work? Yes, okay. Here's a job. Let's work. I'm going to give you some money for doing the work. So at the end of the day, third grade, what happens with the pay that is given out? What happens? Ex- Exactly, but everybody got the same. Everybody got the same payment. Everybody got the same payment. Everybody got the same money, no matter when you began the work. No matter when you began the work. Okay. So let's say that you're taking a test, 8th grade. You're taking a difficult test, a terrible test, because Mr. Harmon likes to give difficult, terrible tests. Okay. And everybody's taking this terrible test, and you're studying and you're studying and studying. But some of you decided to play lacrosse. And you didn't study as much as you should have. And you basically kind of just came into the test, and I'm going to pick this answer, this answer, this answer, but everybody got an A. Would you be happy? Oh, don't tell me yes. People wouldn't necessarily be angry a little bit. You worked hard, you studied. But people who were playing lacrosse went out playing lacrosse. They came and said, I don't really care. Answer, answer, answer. But I got an A just like you did. I didn't have to work for it. That's sometimes what can happen. Again, we have a sense in which, again, we think of justice. We think of what's right on our own terms. On our own terms. And yet God's terms of what is right are very different. Are very different. Everybody got the same amount of money for doing whatever work they did, whether it was being hired last or being hired first. The fact that they were able to work is what mattered. The fact that they were able to work is what mattered. That's something, again, for us kind of to think about, again, as we begin this school year. It may not be, again, what we get is grades. It's not really what we get, again, is a sense of what kind of achievements or things like that. It's the fact that each of us have the opportunity, each of us have the chance to be here. Each of us have the chance to be in this place with each other, and that matters significantly. That matters more than anything else. And because it first off has to begin with the fact that here I am at the Franciscan school, here I am in this place with all of these people, and I know that I am not a nameless face, means that something wonderful is happening. And we need to hold on to that first and foremost, to be a part of this place. Because when we recognize how great it is to be here, then we want to get more. We want to work more. We want to invest more. We want to discover more. We want to experiment more. We want to see more. We want to do more. But first we have to recognize how good it is to have found this place. In the same way that master of that field, the owner of that field, saw these people who needed something to do and brought them in to do something. You're here, beginning this new year. Beginning this year together, this week, since we began last week. What opens up for you now? Because you recognize how good it is to be here. How wonderful it is to be here. Think about that first. Think about that always. You, class of 2035, again, what wonders is going to be open for you here in this great place. Look at you have nothing to worry about when it comes to wearing your clothes. There's no back-to-school shopping for us because everybody's told what to wear. What a great burden. We don't have to worry about it anymore. Yes, you have to grow, and you have to get larger clothes and things like that, but no back-to-school shopping. You're wearing what you wear. That's great. It's wonderful. And you, class of 2026, what is it that you have recognized as being in this place, in this wonderful place, in this glorious place that is the Franciscan School? And what will you take to show the world how glad you were that you found your way here, that God led you here? Because again, that makes all the difference in the world. That helps us to see more than we ever thought we could see. Being here, first and foremost, being with each other, first and foremost, can change everything. And so let's let it do that. Let's let God's Spirit speak to us, knowing how good it is to be here. Okay, everybody up.